Welcome everybody to tonight's webinar. We're super excited to have Steve Earl on with us. He's from Done For You Real Estate. He's one of the co-founders, and we've personally had lunch at least once, twice, a couple times maybe. I've been to his offices. They're not far from ours. We really like Steve and Kevin with Done For You Real Estate. They're good guys and they're hardworking, and they have a lot of good things going on for them in the real estate world, and we love it. Like I said, I'm a real estate investor. Myself and Don invest in real estate. Gosh, if you're not doing real estate, you're missing out. It is really definitely a wealth builder. So let's do a few quick announcements before we start. I always like to mention a little bit about our YouTube channel. So a lot of you are always asking for the latest recordings that you're looking for about our latest webinars and events and things. Anything we have, we actually now post on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube, all you got to do is navigate to Protect Wealth Academy. So you can Google YouTube Protect Wealth Academy. That's as easy as it is. Or go to YouTube and type in Protect Wealth Academy. You can see all of our latest speakers on there, and they are some of the best speakers. And one of our favorites we just heard recently from Dr. Danko. He's the author of The Millionaire Next Door. And a lot of millionaires created it through real estate. So we're excited for Steve tonight because that's a good topic. And the tax savings there, the things that millionaires do differently is they invest and they save money on taxes. So that's kind of cool. We teach a lot of that. And in a lot of these speakers, you'll see, the asset protection attorneys, Clint Coons, former senior trial attorney from the IRS, Scott Estel. A lot of you know Scott Estel. So the former senior trial attorney at the IRS. There's probably nobody better than having someone that was a former trial attorney for the IRS on your side. And he comes and speaks at our events. And gosh, it's kind of neat because there's so many ways to reduce your taxes. And real estate is one of them. It is. It really is. All right. So here's our upcoming events. Right now, a lot of you know we do. We're kind of announcing this tonight. We have not done a live event in quite a while. And that's for good reason. Obviously, because of COVID, we didn't do a lot of live in-person events. Now, though, in June, coming up is our live stream. So that's our live stream. That's at home on your couch. August, live stream on your couch. But in Phoenix, October, come on down. If you want to come, we'll be holding an event there. And that is $99 a person. The cost is free for our events typically. For any live stream, it's going to be free. But if you come to Phoenix, it is $99 a person just to register and attend. I know that's just because, well, nowadays a live event costs a lot more than a live stream. So you guys know how that works. That's just how it goes. So please come. We'd love to have you. You can register at protectwealth.com. This is our premier event, and we will have all these speakers you see here, plus more different topics. And that's everything from asset protection, estate planning, tax reduction. We combine all those into one, and then we also have wealth creation strategies. And of course, Steve, we always do a disclaimer before we start. We are an asset protection company. So we do a legal disclaimer and a tax disclaimer and investing, earnings claim, that sort of thing. You can cover that in yours too. But, of course, as you guys know, this is not specific legal, financial, tax, or investment advice, right? As you know, it's going to be more broad and general educational purposes only. So if you're looking for a specific legal, financial, or investment advice, make sure you talk to a competent legal, financial, or investment advisor. Okay. All right. And then let's get started with Steve. Steve, I read something in your bio as we got started here. I was looking to introduce you today. I will say that, like I said, Steve and I, we've had lunch a few times. I've been to his office. Good guys. I really like what they do. A lot of good things happening in the real estate world. Steve knows what he's doing. I know he's an investor, so he's the real deal. He invests in real estate. But I read in your bio, Steve, you're a motorcycle guy, huh? So you like to go out and hit the road, huh?
I do. I'm a Harley rider. My sons and I, and my daughter. My daughter just got a motorcycle. And we typically do 2 long rides every year, about 1,500 miles each. And so we like to put some road behind us and take all the scenic byways. And for me, there's just nothing better. Just love it.
I'm a mountain biker. I know that's no comparison, but man, I can see the appeal because man, just being out in the open, it's beautiful, some nice scenery. Sign me up. I'm all about that. That's why I bike a lot. I'm sure if I had a motorcycle, I'd be in trouble. I'd probably join you on the trail, on the road.
You can come join me anytime. That'd be great.
Well, and the only question I have is though, doesn't your seat get tired after a while?
You do get saddle sore. You're stopping every, about 100 miles. You work into your itinerary every day at your stops, to fill up with gas and to walk around. You got to stretch a little bit, but you got to get the walking in as well, for sure.
I bet. I love it because I get sore. I hit the mountains and I love it. But we're so excited to have you, Steve. Let's go ahead and share your screen. Make sure that works okay. We had some issues this last week sharing screens for some reason with Zoom, but for the most part, it seems to be resolved. But yeah, and I'll let you do more of an intro about yourself and about Done For You Real Estate. But I really am excited about this topic because we get a lot of questions about this topic, almost more than anything else, because most of you on the call are real estate investors. Let's see, it looks good. Yep, go ahead and play that. But if everyone's real estate investors, and so everyone's wondering, is it time to get in, get out? What do I do next? Et cetera, because of the high, insane prices. We're here in Utah, where it's one of the highest appreciating states in the country. Insane. Even my California friends are coming here going, what? Homes are that expensive? So if they're complaining about it, you know it's bad. But we're excited to have you, Steve. Thank you so much. And then we want to do a Q&A at the end. If we have some time at the end, if you have questions, maybe drop them in the Q&A screen, and then Steve and I will, I'll moderate and you can answer those questions.
Okay. Well,
thank you.
I sure appreciate it, Kendall.
Thank you.
It's a real privilege and an opportunity to speak with your students here. Appreciate everybody being online with me tonight. Hopefully there's some value that I can bring to the table. Just a little bit more about me. I actually originally grew up in Canada, lived in South America for a little bit, ended up here in the United States. My wife and I moved down here about 32 years ago. I have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. My oldest son is a graduate of Harvard Law School. He's an attorney in downtown New York now. He has 4 young boys, and actually, as we speak, they're watching the New York Rangers play the Pittsburgh Penguins. And what's interesting about that is my daughter lives in Pittsburgh. That's where she went to university. She played on the women's ice hockey team there, and she is now the head coach of the hockey team. And so there's a little bit of a rivalry going on tonight between 2 of my kids. And so that's kind of an exciting thing going on. We're all, since we're all, originally from Canada, hockey is in the blood. Some people ask me, in fact, it's like, what's the main religion up in Canada? And it's hockey. I grew up hockey night in Canada, Saturday nights, it was a tradition. And so definitely with the playoffs starting, it's an exciting time for my family. I have been investing in real estate. I've been involved in real estate since about 2002. I was in the construction industry for many years, and I had a mentor who got me involved in real estate, and I loved it so much. 2 of my passions are business and real estate. And so in 2004, I sold my company and became a full-time real estate investor. And I quickly learned that I didn't have enough money to buy all of the good deals that I was finding. That one of my kind of knacks in life is finding good real estate opportunities. And so back in the day, as I was doing it myself, I kind of, when I first got started, I felt like a kid in a candy store. I didn't know what to really focus on. And so I did a little bit of commercial. I did multifamily. I remember buying a home and tearing it down and subdividing it and building, 2 new homes, and then selling those. I bought commercial space, commercial warehouse type space. And I've also did single family homes. And where I kind of settled was in the single family long-term rental side of things. Because I started helping, I got my real estate license and I started helping my friends and family do the same thing that I was doing. I developed a bit of a strategy as to what to do with these properties. And one thing led to another. I ended up getting my broker's license and created and started a real estate brokerage. And then I found a partner who we started doing this with, and we purchased a mortgage company, and then we started an insurance company, and then we started developing other products and services, and what ultimately developed into what we have here today, Done For You Real Estate USA. And so we've been doing this model now for about 15 years, where we're kind of a one-stop shop. We don't really look at ourselves as a turnkey provider, but that's, for the most part, that's what it is. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But I personally have invested in a lot of real estate. I've come to understand and realize what I believe to be the best way to purchase real estate. And my partner and I, we've developed a bit of a philosophy. We call it micro wins to millions. It's the concept of Moneyball real estate, where we kind of are believers in the idea of hitting singles. Instead of swinging for the fences and trying to hit a home run, right out the gate, we're big believers that really all you need to do is hit singles. And if you hit enough singles, you're going to win the game. And so over the last 15 years, we've had the opportunity to help, at this point now, thousands of people build real estate portfolios. Many started with just one property, and today they have many properties, and it's been really life-changing. And that's one of the things that has been so rewarding for me personally, is that our clients aren't our typical client isn't like this wealthy real estate investor. The regular people who realize that they need to have real estate in their portfolio, that they in order, they realized that they weren't going to retire the way that they wanted to without real estate being a part of that portfolio. And so it's been really rewarding to help people over the last 15 years build these real estate portfolios, develop cash flow, turn one property into two into four into eight, and so on. We do a lot of 1031 exchanges, and more than half of our business every year is just repeat customers coming back again and again, because number one, it works, and number two, they see the incredible value that investing in real estate the right way has for them. So that's a little bit about me. That's a little bit about our company. And I know that the title of this webinar essentially revolved around how to identify real estate markets. And I have some slides that I'm going to show you. In fact, we're going to just kind of zip through them, because I believe that there are a number of things that are more important than identifying the good markets right now. There's some crazy things going on in our world, and they are things that can be very disconcerting. We have mega inflation going on. Home prices are going through the roof. In fact, February of 2022 posted the highest rate of home price increase or appreciation in the history of this country. It was over 20% year over year. Now, I'm going to share with you some information where that's not going to keep doing that. There's some things coming up where we're going to see. I don't think we're going to see home prices drop for the most part, but I believe that we're going to see home price increases slow down fairly dramatically. There's some good information out from Fannie Mae. They posted one of the best articles that I've read recently, where they believe that we're going to go from that 20% depreciation in the first quarter of 2022 into lower double digits by the end of 2022, and through 2023 we'll see home prices slow down into the single digits, and generally speaking across the country, as low as back to what I would call normal, closer to 3 or 4%. In the markets where we invest, probably 5 to 7%. So I do believe we're going to see a slowdown in home prices in the coming several quarters. And I also believe, and according to Fannie Mae, we are likely to see at least a mild recession in 2023. So we'll see how that all rolls out. But at the end of the day, I'm going to zip through a few slides here. I can get fairly technical as far as like how we identify markets, what we look for, the criteria, and so on. And let's see here. If I can figure out how to.
You might hit play up top there, I assume. There you go. Maybe so.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks very much,
Yep.
Kendall. So I'm not even going to talk to this very much. I just wanted to show you that I did prepare for this, for this presentation, and I got, pretty granular as far as like being able to show it's like, the things that we do when we're analyzing research. But we basically go through 4 phases. We do research, we do comparison analysis, we do market selection, and then what's really critical to us is this concept of boots on the ground and a team setup. And you can see, these are the different areas where we have recently vetted, and we have a criteria that we go through, rankings, methodology, our criteria. I'm just going to rip through these really quick because I really do feel like there's some things that I'd like to talk about with you tonight that are more critical than just how to identify a market. But when we are identifying markets, because we're located here in Utah, but we don't really buy in Utah. We did 15 years ago, starting about 12 years ago, 95% of our buying went out of state. So, we kind of have an investment score, a ranking, and some of the things we look at, median wage, 3-year wage growth, unemployment, job growth, education levels, population growth history, median home price, which is really critical. One of the reasons we don't buy in Utah is because home price, the price point to rent ratio, it doesn't work on the cash flow side of things. Cost of entry level home by state, 3-year estimated home price appreciation. One of the things that we look at is population growth. Number 10 there is probably one of the number one criteria that we look at, because population growth is the number one indicator for home price appreciation. Average age of homes, new construction. One of the things that we do as a company, we like to find and identify what we call sleeper markets. It's really difficult when you go into an area where you have the large hedge funds who are buying up everything. They don't care about price. How do you compete against, billions of dollars of cash, and a model where price is to them doesn't mean a whole lot. Average age of population, weather conditions are huge. In some areas of the country, if it's not raining, it's snowing. If it's not snowing, it's snowing ice. If it's not snowing ice, there's tornadoes. If there's not tornadoes, there's hurricanes. And so you want to be careful about weather conditions and extreme weather and so on. Property tax rates are kind of critical. Income tax rates. Is it a landlord-friendly state and city? What are eviction requirements? Because a lot of times tenants have more rights than the actual property owners, and that can cause some issues. Rental vacancy rates, price to rent ratio, rent rates, best states for business, states friendly to small business and entrepreneurs. And then of course, a really big one is property insurance costs. And these are all things that we take a look at very closely when we're looking at markets and kind of ranking them. So another one is just transportation, the opportunity, the ability for people to come in, to work, to come in for short periods of time and leave. Is there effective mass transit? Are HOAs a big factor? I love HOAs. A lot of people feel like HOAs are horrible. I love them because when they're run properly, and we focus on making sure that any HOA that we are dealing with is an HOA that is effectively run. Because when you have an effectively run HOA, they make sure you don't have cars up on blocks, that the lawns are mowed, and all of the different things that they enforce ensure that values of properties are going to remain strong. So some of some of the cities that we have vetted recently and looked at: Orlando, Oklahoma City, Memphis, Indianapolis, Charlotte, Atlanta, Cheyenne, Idaho Falls, Austin, Jacksonville. We are in many of these areas, and we're constantly vetting these and additional areas. And so there you go. Like, that was the title of the presentation, but I would prefer to talk about a little bit more current, things that are going on in the market, things that are really important to you, to your family, to your families, and to you and your individual lives. Because at the end of the day, the theory of real estate is really important, right? And what I've had the opportunity to see is to see theory become reality and practicality. And so I'm much more about, the practicality. The theory is really important, and like the minutia and the details of how to pick a market and so on. But there are just some really important things, current events going on. The war in the Ukraine. Inflation across the world. We have COVID going on. We just have some pretty major things in the world going on that can be kind of disheartening to a lot of people and can make people be fearful. And the problem with fear, and feeling like, it's like, gosh, like, what am I even trying to do, because things are just going to fall apart. Am I going to, invest in this or that, and it's just going to go down in value? Like, how do I know what to do? And so I want to address, some of these issues as it relates to real estate. And like I mentioned earlier, Done For You Real Estate, we've been around for about 15 years now. We've been doing this actively. We have a team of 24 full-time people who dedicate, 8 to 12 hours a day to nothing but real estate, and how to do it, and how to do it well, how to do it properly, and how to help our clients succeed. So, who are we? I'll just kind of state, maybe better than who are we, maybe what are some of the things that we've been able to do over the last, 15 years. We're a Better Business Bureau accredited business with an A+ rating. We were in 2020, we received some awards. We have a podcast that I would invite you to listen to on a weekly basis called Replace Your Income. My partner and I do this podcast, and it's been a really rewarding experience, and it's a great opportunity for our clients to kind of stay up to date on what's going on in real estate, and how to go about doing it according to our philosophy, and this concept of hitting singles and not really shooting to swing for the fences. We've transacted well over $500 million in real estate, more than 4,000 homes. We were doing real estate prior to the Great Recession. When people were getting out of the business, we were getting into the business, including getting into the mortgage and insurance business. Currently, the markets that we focus on are Florida, Indianapolis, Memphis, Tennessee, Oklahoma City, and Charlotte, North Carolina. We currently have well over 3,000 properties under management. One of the things that I want to talk about is this concept of perspective. So when I talk about like everything going on in the world today, we can look at it from the standpoint of, hey, the sky is falling and things are not looking so great. Or we can look at it from the standpoint of, hey, where is the opportunity in everything that's going on in the world that is just so crazy? And how do I be a force for good? How do I be a solution in a world where it seems like so many things are not going so well? And how we look at the world and the perspective that we have is so critical that I want to talk about this idea of perspective for just a minute. I hope you'll kind of indulge me for a minute, because it's really critical in how we look specifically at real estate, at wealth, at life, generally speaking, because we should invest in real estate the same way that we live our lives. Like there should be some continuity between those two things. And I'm a big believer that how we do business, how we do real estate should just be an extension of how we live life. And if we do that and we do it with the right perspective, I think we will make better decisions. And so if we don't approach, life and living in real estate, from a fearful perspective, we'll just make better decisions. And so on this note of perspective, I hope you don't mind me sharing kind of a personal story for just a minute. 12 years ago, my wife and I went for a bike ride. It was Labor Day 2010. And I bought my wife a tandem bicycle. Back, several years ago, she had a couple of brain tumors, and, she lost a lot of her balance and some different things. And so we used to ride bikes, we used to ski, we used to do a lot of fun things like that. And so we switched from riding individual bikes to riding a tandem. And so we live in Utah, and we went for a ride early morning on Labor Day weekend. We went up this canyon, Provo Canyon, and there's this beautiful path. We rode from our house up to this waterfall going up the canyon. It's probably, a 10-mile ride. We got up to the waterfall, enjoyed the view. It was really amazing. And then we turned around, we started coming back down. And we got to a place where we turned off, the main path, and we went up this side road, and we were just admiring the mountains. The sun was just coming up, like the view of the mountains when the sun is just like making the mountains kind of glow. I'm sure that you've all kind of seen that picturesque kind of glowing of the mountains as the sun is coming up. And we were straddling the bike, the tandem. And all of a sudden she was like, oh man, my arm is kind of hurting. And I was like, oh, it's probably because you're like pulling so hard on the bike handles as we're going up the canyon. And we continued talking for a minute. And then she's like, wow, my arm is really hurting. And so I was like, well, why don't you, get off the bike and sit down for a minute. And just as she sat down, like something hit her really hard, and like she's having trouble breathing. And I quickly realized that she was having a heart attack. I'm like, what is going on? She's like 42 years old, and like she's, healthy other than this brain tumor thing. Like she's physically healthy. And I'm realizing that she's having this heart attack. And so like I lie her down on the ground, and there's nobody around us. I don't have my phone. She doesn't have her phone. We can't call anyone. And I'm trying to figure out, I was like, do I run back to the main path and try and flag somebody down who, has a phone, or should I stay here and get ready to do CPR? And it was about in that moment when somebody came up, was like, hey, is everything okay? And it happened to be this man. He had his 2 young sons with him. They got off their bikes and they kind of were helping out. And I was like, hey, can you just watch for a minute? I'm going to go find somebody with a phone. And just as I'm getting ready to stand up, I see this white truck driving towards us. And it just happens to be a sheriff. He pulls up. He's like, hey, is everything okay? I'm like, I think my wife's having a heart attack. He called. He gets on his radio. He calls. I mean, in minutes, there's an ambulance there. And just as we're loading my wife up into the ambulance to get her to the hospital, this man and his 2 boys who were there, like his 2 boys were just like wide-eyed, looking at what's going on. And he's like, hey, don't worry about your bike. Here's my phone number. When things, settle down, just give me a call and you can come pick up the bike. So I get in the ambulance with my wife. We get to the hospital, and so fortunately we get there. The surgeon's ready. Like within 30 minutes, she's in surgery, and she has this heart surgery. And like a couple hours later, we're sitting in her hospital bedroom and we're talking, and we're just like, wow, it's like, what a crazy experience. And so my wife was fine. Like she ended up being okay. Thank goodness. About a week later, I contacted this gentleman and said, let him know that everything is okay. And it's like, hey, we can pick up the bike. So we get there, we get to his house, and we pick up the bike. We're outside in front of his house, just kind of talking. And he's like, I got to share this experience with you. It's really kind of interesting. And he's like, while we were, after we got home and I had your bike and I unloaded it, one of my sons, my 7-year-old son came up to me. He's like, "Hey, Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" He's like, "Oh boy, here we go. I'm going to have this life and death conversation with my son and talk about, death and people dying and that kind of a thing." And the little boy is like, he says to his dad, he's like, "Dad, I just never ever thought I would see a bike with two handlebars and two seats." We're like, "What?" It's like, here's this woman lying on the ground, literally dying. And the only thing this little boy can think about is the coolest bike he's ever seen in his life. And it's perspective. This boy had never seen a bike like this. He probably didn't really even understand what was happening, to my wife. So in his mind, the only thing he could think about was this really, really cool bike. Like perspective, right? His perspective was the coolest bike on the earth. My perspective was, oh my goodness, my wife is dying. This is the worst day of my life. And you know what? As we approach life, as we approach real estate investing, it's really no different, right? We all come to the table with different life experience, all the way from somebody who has done real estate and they've had some massive failures. They're going to approach real estate a little bit differently compared to the young, new person in real estate where they've never had a failure in real estate before. They don't even know what questions to ask. And so as we look at this concept of investing in real estate, we look at life, like what perspective are we looking at whatever it is that we're experiencing. And what's interesting about perspective is that even in this meeting today, there's 133 participants here today, and I appreciate each one of you being here. You're all here for different reasons. You all have different perspectives. You all have different life experience. And as such, the words that you are hearing from my voice, from my mouth, you're all interpreting just a little bit differently. And the message that I'm intending to give is maybe not necessarily the message that you're receiving. And that's neither good nor bad. It's just that you're coming at this presentation from a different perspective, from different life experiences. And so as we look at real estate, I'd like for you to consider the conventional perspective of investing in real estate. This concept that for most people, not for all of you, because you all have different experience, for most of you, the idea of investing in real estate is, hey, if I'm going to buy real estate, like really my only option is to buy something, I call it in your own backyard, like in your own neighborhood. Real estate is very geographically centric, meaning, the concept of the wrong side of the tracks. Literally, two homes within 2 blocks of each other can be worth tens of thousands of dollars difference. You could have 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage over here built in 2005 in one neighborhood, and in another neighborhood, literally 2 or 3 blocks away, you could have the exact same home, and it could be worth literally tens of thousands of dollars less or more than the exact same property. And why is that? And so there's this idea that, hey, I can only buy in my own backyard. How could I ever buy real estate 20 miles from my home, let alone 2,000 miles from my home? And that's the conventional perspective. That's the perspective from which most people approach the idea of investing in real estate. In fact, my very first mentor in real estate, he had a philosophy, and his philosophy was, I like to see, touch, and feel all of my real estate on a weekly basis. Like, he literally would drive to each property that he owned, and he would take a look at it. He'd walk around it. He'd pick up pieces of trash and that kind of a thing. And that was his philosophy. And it's a very conventional, perspective on real estate. Another conventional perspective on real estate is, if I'm going to be an investor in real estate, I really need to be the expert. There's lots of books that you can read, and I've read, many of them myself. And there's a very famous book that in one of the chapters, it says, before you buy your first piece of real estate, you need to walk through 100 homes. meaning you need to know what you are buying and you need to physically walk through 100 properties before you pull the trigger on one single piece of real estate. I'm kind of like, in my world, you know, before this was my full-time gig, it's like, I promise you, I did not have time to walk through 100 homes, let alone, you know, look up online 100 homes and look at 100 homes. Now, above and beyond actually walking through the homes and becoming expert in your particular area, you know, there are so many things to consider about real estate, all the way from what type of real estate should I be buying? You know, should I be buying, you know, a fixer upper? Should I buy, you know, a multifamily? Should be a duplex, a fourplex, you know, an eightplex or more? Should I go with a commercial warehouse space? Should I go with an office space? There are so many things to consider that, you know, it's not that it's a bad thought, but conventionally the perspective is, I need to be an expert. I need to pay for some education, and many people will spend literally tens of thousands of dollars to go learn about real estate. And that's kind of a conventional perspective. Another conventional perspective is that, you know, all of the needed relationships to buy and participate in real estate, like, I need to create those. Those need to be my relationships. It's like, okay, I need a real estate agent. I need a mortgage professional. You know, I needed somebody who can do the rehab. I need a property management company. I need somebody who can insure the property. I need somebody in title. Oh, I also need a home inspector. And I'd really like to know who the appraiser is. And so, like, this idea, we got to build this, my personal team. If I'm going to invest in real estate at, you know, at any length. Those are conventional perspectives. There are other conventional perspectives, but these are kind of the main ones. And I'd like you to consider for a minute, maybe there's, you know, another perspective, a new perspective. What about this concept? Well, what if I could buy real estate anywhere in the country? What if I lived in Honolulu, in Hawaii, where real estate is very, very expensive, and where you know, it's very difficult to buy, you know, a piece of real estate without having significant amounts of money for a down payment or to pay cash or whatever the case may be. Like, the idea that if you're in one of these areas where it just doesn't make sense where you could buy, it's like, what would it be like to be able to purchase real estate anywhere in the United States, wherever the best market was, based on your criteria and based on the type of real estate that you felt like you wanted to be buying. So I want you to consider just for a minute that that is possible. Back when we started this company, this was absolutely not something that was done. It has become significantly more mainstream. But for the average typical person who's considering getting into real estate, they may or may not know that, hey, this is actually, you know, something that I could do. And even when you know that it is something that you could actually do, it's a pretty daunting thing to even consider. It's like, how do I do it? Like, how would I identify the property? How would I do the rehab? How am I going to manage it? How am I going to collect the rent? So those are all questions. And I'm going to address it. You absolutely can buy real estate outside of your own backyard. And in fact, I'm going to suggest that it's even more advantageous to buy outside of your own backyard for many, many reasons. The next thing to consider is, maybe I don't have to be an expert. Maybe I don't want to be an expert. Maybe I'm not even like that interested in real estate. I just know it's something that I need to own. It's like, maybe I'm a firefighter, maybe I'm a teacher, maybe I'm a doctor or a dentist or an attorney or whatever career that you are doing that you're passionate about. And that you spend almost every waking moment. You go to bed thinking about that thing. You wake up in the morning thinking about that thing, but you also know that you need to be investing in real estate, but you don't have the time or the interest to become an expert. Well, I'm going to suggest to you that with this new perspective, you don't need to be an expert. You just need to know enough to be able to rely on others to make good decisions. Okay. And then thirdly is this concept of you actually can take advantage of others' experts. And I put in the slide here, DFY's experts. We're not the only company, around that provides this. There's lots of different companies. We feel like we have a very unique model, but the perspective that you could take advantage of other people's relationships and leverage them to bless and benefit your life and your efforts to invest in real estate. So as we continue the presentation, I would just like you to open your mind to the possibility of being able to take advantage of these three new perspectives. So what we do as a company is we do those three things for you. And as part of our process, we identify the best markets. So, the very first, 10 slides talked about, the criteria, the process that we go through to identify markets where we feel like it makes sense to invest. So let's say that you're somebody who lives in New York City, where average purchase price is nearly $1 million for a less than 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage. And the rules and the laws are not favorable for a landlord. And so maybe it just wouldn't make sense to get into purchasing real estate there. So you realize that, hey, I need to identify another market. Well, that's what we have done for your real estate is we've gone through and we've identified, markets that we believe make sense, all the way from, the idea that your total out of pocket to get into a property is going to be significantly less than perhaps in your own backyard, which will, allow you to get into a property with less money down. So number one, we identify the best markets. Number two, we literally find the property for you. We negotiate the deal. We take care of all of the rehab. We provide the financing. We will then manage the property. And then one of the things that makes us unique from many other companies that do something similar is we help you optimize the property. We help you go from investor or buyer to owner. And as we work with you over the years, our objective is to help you optimize, an individual property, to take that one property and turn it into two. We have story after story of, individuals who have been able to build, portfolios of single family properties that have allowed them to literally make one initial investment. Let's say that they had, $90,000, and that was enough to get into, one single individual property. Within, typically, 5 to 7 years, you're in a position to take the equity growth and the cash flow and turn that property into two properties, either through a refinance or through a 1031 exchange, and then go from that 2 properties to 4 properties without ever injecting additional cash. And we literally have hundreds of clients, who have succeeded in doing this. Just to share one quick story, I'll share a personal story. I'm a big believer that we can influence, the up and coming generation to help them get into real estate at younger ages. My oldest son, when he was younger, he came to work for us when he was about 16, and he's like, "Dad, I want a game plan. I want to buy real estate." And I was like, "Well, you're gonna have to save up some money for down payment. You're gonna have to figure out how to get qualified." And so over the course of almost 4 years, he saved up enough money for a down payment. And back in the day, it was in 2011, when the market had crashed and you could buy properties in Arizona for about $80,000 to $90,000. He was able to put together about $20,000 and get a loan on a property. And he bought his very first property at 19 years old. And within that property happened to cash flow about $400 a month. Within 2 years, that property had appreciated about $72,000. and the market was beginning to recover. And he's like, "Hey, Dad, should I take this money? Should I use that? Now I'm in college. Should I use that to pay for school?" I was like, "Well, what are your goals? What are your objectives?" He's like, "Well, I want to own 8 properties in my portfolio as part of my retirement plan." And so I said, "Well, don't sell it. Why don't you refinance it?" So that's what he did. He refinanced it, and he was able to purchase 2 more properties. And at that time, he got married shortly after that. And one of the properties he bought was a duplex. Him and his wife lived in the basement, rented the upstairs. They lived for free while they were going to school. A few years later, they were able to, when he graduated from law school, he was able to take those 3 properties. He sold one, refinanced 2, and he purchased 3 more. So fast forward, he's now been at this for 10 years. He started when he was 19. He was almost about to turn 20. He just turned 30, and he's taken that $20,000 and he's turned it into monthly cash flow of about $3,500 a month. And his equity position has grown to over $600,000. Now, mind you, you can't get into a home for $20,000 anymore, but the basic principle is the same. I can tell you the same story of somebody on the opposite end of the spectrum, somebody who got into real estate investing when he was in his mid 70s. And he's now 85, and he did the exact same thing. He started with 1. He now owns more than 10. He now owns, I think, 11 properties, and he's actually paid several of them off along the way. And he has this cash flow. He has a handicapped son, and this portfolio is how he is funding his son's life for the rest of his life. And it's this concept of allowing your real estate to pay for everything, and allowing your real estate to fund the growth of the portfolio. And so it's a different perspective. It's kind of it's part of this change of conventional perspective, which is like hit a home run. The new perspective is hit a single, be patient, do this boring version of real estate. And within 5 to 7 years, you can turn the 1 into 2. 5 to 7 years later, you can turn 2 into 4. A few years later, so within a 10 to 15 year period of time, you can start with 1 and have multiple properties working for you. And one of the other perspectives is, well, and we're going to get into like why real estate in just a minute, but I just want to touch on it. And leverage is the game changer, because you can put 20 to 25% down on a property. And so your investment is, say, $75,000, but you have an asset that's worth $250,000 that's working for you in terms of appreciation. If the market is appreciating at 5%, per year, your appreciation isn't on the $75,000 you put down, it's on the $250,000. That is one of the most powerful concepts that is not available in most other investments that you can possibly do. Which kind of brings me to, in the first place, why real estate? I just want to talk to this a little bit. And in today's world of hyperinflation, we're going to talk about inflation, hedging inflation, and so on. One of the beauties of real estate that we have found is we've been through the entire market cycle, 1.5, maybe almost 2 times now over the last 15 years, where, we've been in a market where we were buying when things were low, we were buying at the peak when things were high, prices even came down during the Great Recession. We continued to buy and help our clients buy, and it has come all the way back around to where we have record prices again. And we've experienced historic low interest rates, and the many different things that affect real estate. We've kind of lived through them. And the beauty of real estate is that you have multiple sources of revenue, where in one part of the cycle, maybe cash flow is low, but appreciation is high. Or in another part of the cycle, maybe cash flow is high, but appreciation is lower. And in between those two, you've always got 2 other benefits that are working for you regardless of what the market is doing. So I want to talk about each of these just very quickly. I'm just going to check the time real quick and make sure that, okay. So I'm gonna speed things up here just a little bit. So cash flow. This is what Warren Buffett calls margin of safety. Cash flow is what allows you to stay in the game as the market cycles. Cash flow is the thing that gives you confidence to buy in the first place. But the reality is cash flow is the least of the benefits that you get from real estate. It's super important. It's critical. But at the end of the day, 5 to 7 years down the road, as important as cash flow is, it is the least of the benefits that you get. But it's a critical one. So you've got cash flow, principal pay down. You have somebody who is paying rent on a monthly basis, and they're paying down your mortgage every single month. So even if you have a couple $100 a month in positive cash flow, your loan is being paid down several $100s per month. And the longer you own it, the more principal is being paid down every single month. And oftentimes people don't take into account the fact that somebody's contributing to your retirement plan on a monthly basis as that principal gets paid down. Another massive another massive revenue stream are the tax benefits, specifically depreciation. So you get to depreciate that asset over 27 and a half years. And then you have appreciation. And because of leverage, that's one of the most important benefits that you get from real estate in terms of revenue streams. So when you take all four of those benefits, those streams of income, doesn't matter where you are in the cycle. I get people ask me all the time, when should I buy real estate? I'm like, today. It doesn't matter what the market is doing, because you're going to benefit from all or most of these different revenue streams. And over the course of the life of the property, that as long as you own it, you will benefit from all of them. Now, here's one of the things that I want to emphasize the most, and that is that real estate is one of the greatest hedges against inflation. If you take a look at the wealthiest people around, what are they doing right now? They're putting a lot of their resources into real estate because it is one of the best hedges against inflation. And one of the best reasons for that is rent. Rent is the great equalizer. As real estate kind of does this in terms of value, as it goes up, and it goes up and down along the way, rent is more linear, and rent goes up on an annual basis. Historically, over the last many decades, it's about 3.5% is what rent has gone up. And so you can always count on, and if you get a 30-year fixed loan, your payments don't go up, but rent continues to go up. So cash flow continues to increase. And then of course, appreciation. If you have crazy inflation, your home prices are going to go up as materials go up, labor goes up, the value of your home is going to go up. And I'll just talk to this real quick. Some of the questions I get: are we in a bubble? Should I wait for prices to go down? When should I invest? Just really quickly, I believe that my opinion aligns with most of the experts out there. We're not in a bubble in the sense that we're going to see home prices crash. The bottom line is we still have a massive shortage of single-family homes. The reality is materials are still going up in price, labor is still going up, and builders are building homes as fast as they possibly can, and they're not artificially inflating the prices of homes. Builders are not just raking in the bucks. Like, their costs are legitimately going up, and the cost of homes is legitimately going up. And therefore, really the pressure downward to push prices down is coming, and not to push prices down, but to slow the rise of prices, is the fact that, the Fed has increased the rate, interest rates have gone up, people can't afford as much. And so, like, the buying is slightly, what's going to keep prices, or what's going to cause prices to just slow down and going up is the fact that people just simply can't afford them. Should I wait for prices to go down? My humble opinion is absolutely not. People were asking me the same question last year, and last year was probably the greatest year in the history of real estate in terms of increases in value. Our portfolio of our clients' properties collectively increased over $175 million. Individually, the average value of our single family homes increased by more than $50,000 last year. That's not going to continue, but even this year, you're going to see prices go up in double digits. And over the long term, you're going to see prices increase, at least at the rate of inflation or historic inflation, maybe 3 to 5%, which still over the course of 5 to 7 years, every 5 to 7 years, you're going to see increase in equity of, $50,000 to $80,000, which is enough to go and get an additional property. So when should I invest? I was saying the best time to invest. Well, it's kind of like, when was the best time to plant a shade tree? Well, about 20 years ago. Well, when's the next best time to plant a shade tree? Today. And that's my philosophy with real estate as well. I'd kind of like to end there. I think my time is about up. I've just scratched the surface in terms of what's going on in the market, the perspective of real estate, maybe how we ought to maybe consider looking at real estate in terms of how we buy, where we buy, why we buy, when we buy. And I'd like you to consider having, furthering this conversation on a one-on-one basis. Done for You Real Estate is a purely, transactional company. We don't charge anything up front when we work with clients. We take you through a process. One of the very first things that we do is on a one-on-one basis, we continue this conversation that I started today. And we take a look at your situation. We take a look at your resources and what we can do to help you take the next steps forward to either begin or continue your movement forward in investing in real estate. Following that, we get you full doc pre-approved. And once you've gone through that process, then you get assigned to an account executive. You start shopping in a market and you get the process to purchasing your single family home in your portfolio moving forward. So there's this link I'd like to share with you here, dfy-realestate.com, protect wealth, / protect-wealth. And there's a quiz. When you go to and click on this link, there's a quiz that you can take. It's just a few questions. And depending on how you answer those questions, it will tell you whether or not you really have the ability to take next steps to invest in real estate, at least the way that we do it. So I'd invite you to click on this link, take the quiz, and if you qualify, you'll be able to move forward and schedule an appointment with one of our onboarding specialists. And you'll have that 45-minute meeting, and then you'll kind of go from there. After you have that meeting, part of that is we're going to prepare a 48-page report for you, which outlines your next steps, expectations, how to move forward. And it's a phenomenal document that regardless of whether you move forward or not, there's a ton of valuable information that will help you in your investing goals and plans. So with that, Kendall, if anybody has any questions, I'd love to take a few minutes and answer questions and kind of go from there.
Yeah, totally. A lot of the questions coming through I've seen are, we'll get to those individually, but I just want to point out one of the things that I think that Done For You Real Estate does exceptionally well, and it makes them extremely unique. If any of you guys are curious about numbers, a lot of you like to dig in. I don't know if I should mention this or not, but Steve, because I do this, I've gone on their website. You can go on their website right now, seriously, and you can go and you can see how many years back can you see. I mean, literally, you have every single data point from all your investors, pretty much.
Yeah, so I believe there's 8 years worth of annual reports that outlines and details every single property that was purchased by any of our investors. And we track all the data, right? We're kind of data geeks. And all the way from what was the purchase price, how much rehab was put into it, what was the projected rent, what was the actual rent, how many days, what was the projected time frame to get it rented, to how many days did it actually take to get rented, to appreciation values, to what did properties sell for in how many years. And anyways, we track all that, and they're in these reports that we publish them publicly on our website.
Well, for me, I'm very comfortable buying real estate anywhere in the country, at least anywhere. I've done it sight unseen many times. I love it. I'm very comfortable with that. But if you've never done that before, as you mentioned, previously, it can be a little scary. But, if you want to feel comfortable and actually see long-term data, which I like, full transparency is you guys give full, complete transparency on everything you guys do. I love it. It's unique because I've looked at, I worked with other companies in the past, and they're not fully transparent. And so you can see how people are doing as investors. And that's kind of a neat thing. It speaks for itself.
It never ceases to amaze me that we'll have somebody in Alaska working with one of our account executives in Utah buying real estate in Memphis, Tennessee. And it works seamlessly.
Well, I mean, if it's working with all the private equity companies, they're just buying them sight unseen like crazy, in some places, right? You know what? They're investors. They do the numbers. Clearly, there's options out there, and it's as investors, it's a great way to go. I love real estate. It's so much fun. So thank you. Great info. I appreciate that very much. I love your insight. Really cool to know. Well, let's start with a few questions here. Steve, in case you don't cover it, this is from Anonymous, and I think that name. When can we see the foreclosures that have been in default? Please refer us to a lender for refi, for an Airbnb or HELOC. Okay, he's listening on his phone. So, okay. So yeah, I think you covered some of that. So when can we see foreclosures that have been in default? So
yeah, I can tell you right now that, there is some inventory growing. I'm very familiar with it because we watch that closely because we want to be able to get back into that game as it becomes available. And each state is a little bit different. There are a lot of properties in forbearance, but here's the deal. I personally don't think we're going to see things like we did back in 2008, 2009, like just massive numbers of foreclosures. And why? Because every piece of real estate in our country has gone up dramatically. And so people have options, right? People can sell them to investors, themselves without going into foreclosure. If somebody's going into foreclosure, it's because they're absolutely 100% clueless. Because in this market, it's been pretty hard to be upside down in a property right now, period.
It's so true. It's kind of hard to see this. We won't see the same thing like we saw before, for sure. Okay, Steve, shall we sell our investment properties when the percentage rates drop? Is that so? I guess it's concerns about the market. Sounds like, if the market's going to drop, should they sell their investment properties? I think the same answer, probably not.
Yeah. So what I have learned over the years, to this very day, I kick myself for every piece of real estate that I actually sold.
Me too.
If I could do it all over again, I would never sell any of my properties and cash out. I would sell and 1031 exchange into additional properties, but I wouldn't just sell, pay the taxes, and go spend the money or put it in somewhere else. Because where wealth is truly created in real estate is hanging on to it. We've been doing this long enough now that from personal experience now, and also from working with our clients, those who have continued to play the game, done the 1031 exchanges, and just built their portfolio, their cash flows are increasing, their values are increasing dramatically. And here's the cool thing. If you have a plan, and if you execute this plan of not ever really selling your real estate, but just continuing to build that portfolio, and you know this better than me, Kendall, with what you guys do, when you pass away and you leave your real estate in a trust or whatever you do, when whoever you leave it to, there's a step up in basis. And all of those deferred taxes literally go away. And those who inherit that real estate start all over again. Yep. And the benefit to them is it's massive. Like there's nothing else out there that has the tax benefits that real estate has. And so speak to somebody who's knowledgeable about it, to your tax attorney, or your attorney who is doing your trust, or whoever, and they will help you put a plan together where, I would say, do not just sell and cash out. Sell and buy all day long.
Yeah, that's a big mistake. I totally agree. You got to think that through from a tax perspective. We've even had people cash out like IRAs, not knowing you could invest through your IRA. You can use your IRA to invest in real estate. You can. And we've had people sell or cash out their IRAs and go buy real estate. And they took a massive hit by doing that. Don't do that. Yeah, think it through. There's a lot of ways and massive tax benefits. Okay, John, good question here. Can we 1031 exchange our existing California investment property into design and construction of several rental units on land we currently own?
So it depends on a couple of things. So yes, you can 1031 exchange property into, new build properties. Absolutely. The only part of the question that I don't know for sure is where you're building them on land that you already own. You might be able to 1031 exchange into the construction side of things. I don't know. In fact, I do know. You can't 1031 exchange into property that you already own. So
good question.
That's an excellent question. So I'd suggest you talk to First American Exchange, or somebody who does these exchanges, but talk to the attorney at the exchange company, and he or she should be able to direct you on that. Excellent question.
It's a great question. I don't know that answer either. Okay. Michael says, what is the cash on cash return of your offerings, including expenses, including property management, et cetera? Even better, if you have noted down cash flows in and out, their timing, their average internal rate of returns to the investor. Yeah, you guys have all that info.
Yeah, I'd suggest go to dfy-realestate.com. We keep sample pro formas for each of our markets where we help our clients buy, and you can take a look at fairly current pro formas that these are properties that our clients actually did buy. We don't keep live properties on our website, but these are properties that our clients actually did buy. So these are actual numbers, and you can take a look at what was the cash on cash return, what was the combined cash on cash return, and what was the annualized return on investment over a 5-year period of time. We do take into account vacancies and repair. We take into account the mortgage expense. We take into account property management fees. And, we also take into account if you sell the property in 5 years, we account for all of the costs associated with selling that property when you do go to sell that property and 1031 exchange it into another property. So the pro formas are very accurate.
I love that. That's my favorite part about what you guys do. It's all spelled out for you. There's no question. I love that. Okay. Any data on how many investors lose their money in real estate market over a 10-year period due to one reason or another? Huh? That's a good question.
Well, I can tell you our clients what their scenario is. And so it also depends on how you look at it. So I'll tell you right now that when you're looking at a profit and loss statement versus a cash flow statement, on a profit and loss statement, and you want this, you're going to be able to show typically that you had a loss at the end of the year. When you do your taxes, you're going to be able to see that your property technically lost money because you get to take advantage of depreciation. And that's one of the great benefits. But if you take a look at what your cash flow actually was, if you're just looking at your bank account, 9 times out of 10, you're going to see a positive cash flow scenario with your property. And so depending on what type of a document you're looking at will depend, will tell you, will depend on whether you're seeing a loss or a positive.
See, and that's a cool spin because if you think about it the right way, sometimes you want losses. You got to think about the right way, guys. And you guys all should know this from a tax perspective. Yeah, if you do some cost seg and things like that, bonus depreciation, all the stuff you can get, Totally. I mean, once you understand how the game's played with taxes on that side of it, it's a whole different ballgame. And maybe you're asking your questions. Maybe you're scared about investing because you lose money in real estate. Gosh, it's if you're doing a lot of things wrong, it's maybe you can, right? People can lose their shirts in real estate if they do it the wrong way.
Yeah, if you're flipping homes, it's very, very easy to lose money.
Yep.
It's the short game, and if you take into account all the time that you maybe put into it, I guarantee you're going to lose money, almost, unless you're a real professional at it. But if you're flipping homes, I think a lot of people lose money flipping homes because a lot of them are novices and they're just getting into it. They want to make a quick buck, and it's just not what they think it's going to be. But for anybody who holds on to a property, I like Warren Buffett's philosophy. He says, if you're not going to hang on to a stock for at least 5 years, don't buy it. Yep. And we say, if you're going to buy real estate without the intention of hanging on to it for at least 5 to 10 years, then don't buy it. Like real estate, the real opportunity in real estate is hanging on long term. That's where wealth is truly created.
You look at HGTV and you think, oh, it's fun to fix and flip. That's what most people in their mind think real estate investing is. No, that is not. I mean, you go in and find some faulty foundation or whatever, right? Absolutely, it could be risky. But if you do long-term holds on real estate, I love it. The cash flow, appreciation, tax benefits. It's pretty hard to lose money in real estate if you do it the right way.
Yeah. Many of those those are fake.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Oh, man. What's the typical rent to value ratio in your properties?
So there used to be kind of like this rule of thumb, right? The 1% rule, where it's like, you should be able to get 1% of the value of the property. Bigger Pockets recently had a podcast, and the name of the podcast was "The 1% Rule is Dead." Real estate is very fluid. It's changing. What was a rule of thumb a few years ago is no longer a rule of thumb. And so what the numbers that we like to look at is like real data, boots on the ground. It's kind of like at the beginning of COVID, all the experts were saying, oh, the market's going to crash. It's going to this, that, the other. We're like, that's not what we're seeing. We're talking to our people in the markets and seeing what they are experiencing in real time. And what we saw was something very different. And fortunately, we were able to convince our clients to continue to move forward. And obviously they benefited, enormously. And so from that standpoint, the rent to price ratio, you just have to take, with a grain of salt.
I agree. Things have changed, and you look at cash flow and overall returns. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Okay. John, Jean-Pierre, do you look at short-term rental investment properties like Airbnbs and markets in your research or portfolio?
Yes. So our focus is long-term rentals, but we are involved in short-term rentals. And if that's something that you're interested in, that is a phenomenal market to pursue. Cash flows are very strong. You still get all the same appreciation. Now, having said that, doing short-term rentals is kind of like hitting a double or a triple. There's more risk involved. There's more money involved because not only are you buying the home and doing some rehab, you're going to have to decorate it. You're going to have to furnish it. And you're paying closer to 25 to 30% property management fees if you have it professionally managed. But even at that, and at a 50% occupancy rate, you can have a very, very strong cash on cash return, even in today's market at the higher interest rates. So I would encourage you to continue to look into it.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very cool. I didn't know you guys did that. That's great.
Yep.
All right, Elizabeth, what markets are you focusing on now? So go through the markets again.
Yeah, so we're in Florida, Indianapolis. Well, we're in Orlando and Central Florida, Indianapolis, Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee. We are in the process of opening Knoxville, Tennessee. We are literally a couple of weeks away from that market being completely open. We are in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. And we are also not weeks away, but days away from opening Northern Mississippi, which is kind of the southern tip of the Memphis market.
Very cool. And one of the cool things you guys focus on, I noticed in your analysis, is you can look at if you're more interested in an area that has more cash flow, like if you really want more cash flow, or if you really want more appreciation, and you can kind of steer them towards what markets you're looking for long term.
Yeah, exactly. Cash flow in every market is being squeezed right now because of interest rates and because of where prices are going, and because rents just, you know, price appreciation is outpacing inflation, even if you can believe it. And so rents are not quite keeping up. And so, what we would consider at one point, a cash flow market, cash flow is better than in the other markets, but it's not quite what it was even a year ago.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay. Jan, click the survey. My first question, my answer is all. Is that not a choice? Oh, I guess that's the survey question. Do you know what that question is?
Um,
So I guess her answer is all. So probably what your retirement plan is, I think is what it was, right?
I'm not sure. I went through the questions right before I jumped on this, but I don't have them memorized. So
okay, I'm looking at it right now. What is your current retirement plan? Traditional 401ks, Social Security, real estate, or working till I can't work any longer? So
just pick the one that best describes you.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, great. All right. Done for you seems vertically integrated. Does it have tax filing components as well?
So we are vertically integrated to a degree. And so what's the question about taxes?
Does it have tax filing components as well? Can I even use it to file my entire return?
Yeah, so we don't do that, no, but we do have people that we can recommend to you if you wanted.
Very good. That's great. Steph, I'm always hesitant to buy. I wanted to buy during the pandemic, then I lost my job. It's been hard to find a job that pays the same. My fear has always been that I can't afford the property. In the past, I bought 2 properties in 2006 and lost both of them because my husband and I lost our jobs. Sorry about that. Therefore, it's always been the fear that I won't be able to make payments if I lose my income. So, yeah, that's a good concern.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a concern. If you're buying properly, you could lose your job, and that shouldn't affect the success of your property. Meaning, if you have a property where the rent is covering your mortgage payment, whether you had a job or not, you should not be paying the mortgage from your from your W-2 income. You should be paying it from the renter's payment to you. And we do advocate having a healthy reserve account in the event that you not lose your job, but you lose your tenant, or you have some unexpected expenses come up.
So Steph, yeah, you're pretty much with a team like Done For You Real Estate, you're pretty well insulated against that stuff. If it's good to have a little bit of vacancy allowance or money on the side, right, to make sure if someone's out of the home that you can cover it. But yeah, I mean, for me, I've been a real estate investor in single family homes for years, and even if you lost your job, you have those rents coming in always. And so you should be able to cover that. That really shouldn't be a concern. Just keep what do you think is your average turn time, your average turnaround time, Steve, from when someone leaves a rental to when someone re-signs a contract?
Yeah, typically it's not greater than 2 months. There are some anomalies where I know I'm aware of some people who have gone 6 months, but that really is a rarity. It's typically 30 to 60 days.
So Steph, only keep a few months, maybe 5-6 months, that's good information. Always good advice always is to keep something in reserve always, just to make sure you can cover that. And so really, if you can cover that, you have rents coming in, within a few months, generally. Do I need to be an accredited investor?
Nope.
Good.
So in order to purchase real estate, like you're going to own the property 100% yourself. We are here to facilitate the whole process. So you'll get your own loan on the property. So in order to buy, you need just a couple of things. One, you need verifiable income. You need enough money for the down payment and expenses to get into the property. And you need at least a 680 credit score. And that's pretty much it. You got those three things, and you can get her done, and you don't need to be accredited. No.
Yeah, Steph, it can be scary investing in your first rental property, your first real estate property. And I will, for sure, we all know this. We've talked about it over and over. It is the way to wealth. It really is in so many ways. It really, really is. Just the benefits are huge, but it can be scary to invest. I know for sure my first few properties I did, I was scared to death to do it. I knew it was the right thing, but I was scared to do it. Once I did it though, first time was the hardest. After that, you just get used to it, and it's just part of the game. It's fun actually. And like I said, my last couple of properties I haven't even looked at. haven't even looked at. Oh, it's crazy. All right. Steph says, yeah, it's difficult to compare yourself to private equity firms as an individual. That's true. But Steve, you spelled it out pretty well. You can do it. It's just keep some cash on hand, and you'll be good. Lily Beth says, I'm very interested in DFY. Is this a form of syndication?
No. From the standpoint of, like, we don't have a fund. You're not investing in a fund. You're going to purchase your own property that you will own 100% yourself.
That's so cool. I like that better than like a REIT, for example. REITs can be cool. I mean, there's some cool things there. Funds are cool, mutual funds, whatever. There's some cool things about all that. But to have your own physical asset, Lily Beth, that takes a lot of the risk away in my mind.
Well, and you have so many options with that property. You can rent it, you can refinance it, you can sell it and do a 1031 exchange, you can sell it and cash out, you can tear it down and build a garden, you can subdivide it, you can, like, there's you have a lot of options when you own the property and you control it.
Yeah, like you said, if you're thinking about syndication, different funds and things like that, you don't have a lot of control. You don't. So that
you have zero control. You're what's considered a passive investor. Other people are making all of the decisions, and you also don't get many of the benefits. With some syndications, you don't get to take advantage of depreciation. With certain REITs, some you do, but many you don't. You don't get those benefits, and sometimes you don't get to control the dividend or the cash flow. You don't get to make any of those decisions as to how much money you're going to peel off and that kind of a thing.
Yeah, totally. It's the way to go. I like single family homes myself. Key, can you do a self-directed Roth IRA to invest with you?
Yes, you can. There are limitations with self-directed IRAs. There's rules that you still have to follow, but the short, quick answer is yes, you can.
You can't go and mow the lawn of that property. You have to have arm's length transactions. Yep, that's totally. Right. Yep. And that's a good thing. That's how I do a lot of my properties. It's great. All right. Thank you for your time. We'll be taking the quiz, looking to acquire more turnkeys later. Good for you. That's a good thing to hear. Love that, guys. That's a great thing. John, I did not hear it. Can you please? Oh, we must have missed it, John. I'm sorry. You missed your answer. Derek, how much cash down would we need to get started in your program? Maybe average.
Yeah. So our average purchase price is about $270,000 right now. And you can get in for 20 to 25% down. And then there's rehab costs, there's closing costs on the loan. And then our fee that we charge is just a flat fee per property of $49.95. And so a typical average amount to get into a property right now is about $80,000.
That's great. That really is. And so it's interesting because we've talked about this, I know you and me, Steve, in the past, where people were kind of looking at properties, hey, $80,000, I can buy a property in the Midwest. Not anymore, guys. That ain't happening. Sorry. No. That's hard to find. And even when you do
find it, I'd suggest you turn around and run the other direction.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, a lot of those properties. So maybe you explain a little bit about that, Steve. You guys do something unique too, and you did talk about this, where they're properties maybe that you'd want to live in. They're nice properties. They're not these rundown, beat up type homes either.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have extensive experience in, low income housing and properties that at one time I paid $15,000 to $20,000 for a whole bunch of properties. And there are some people who have made those types of investments work. But there are issues with that type of property that, I'm just not interested in, and they're a lot of work to manage. And so what we did is we transitioned to, we never buy anything sight unseen. We're buying in middle income neighborhoods. We're buying in neighborhoods where a good property manager wants to manage that property. We're buying in school districts and in neighborhoods where middle income families, young professionals want to live. And we're buying properties that are attracting people who are going to take good care of those properties and have income to, to take care of the properties, right? And they're not interested in stealing the cabinets and breaking the windows on the way out.
In
And
there.
yeah, and so, what's interesting is when COVID hit, the properties that had issues, well, let me just tell you what the properties that didn't have issues. Those were the properties that we were buying. Those were individuals who they suffered just like everybody else and couldn't work and didn't have income and different things. But when they did get, the government assistance, they spent it on what it was intended for, which was their rent. And they, made good. And for the most part, right? They're not perfect renters, but our vacancy and our delinquency rates didn't change through COVID. They stayed typical. So that was a real benefit of owning property in these types of neighborhoods instead of other neighborhoods. And I'm not saying that those other neighborhoods are bad investments, because I think lots of people make those investments work. But our clients want to be as hands-off as they possibly can. And so we buy properties that can be as hands-off as possible. Properties that will have less repairs, less vacancies, less issues, fewer issues. So we buy newer homes. In fact, half of our homes right now are brand new construction.
Awesome.
We're contracted with several contractors who build exclusively for us and for our clients. And even the existing inventory that our clients buy, it's typically newer. And so we've just simply made that choice that we want properties that potentially have the fewest issues possible.
Yeah, every issue you have costs you money and time, and so that's hard. I've done both, and the properties that I want to live in, that I would buy myself, to live in, for example, are the ones that have less issues, less cost, less vacancy, good tenants. It's just, I agree with that. I love that. Okay, Steve, once we are qualified, join your program and purchase a property, do you fully lease it up, and how's that handled?
Yes, that's exactly what we do. So we do not, we're vertically integrated, but we do not by choice own the property management companies. We've chosen to work with companies in the areas where we help our clients buy. And once you close on your property, we do a warm handoff to that property management company. And we're not just referring you to, we vetted these companies and you can go work with them. No, they're a part of our team. They've been with us for an extended period of time. They have hundreds of properties with our clients. And that kind of makes us the 600-pound gorilla, where it's like, you're not just one client working with them. You're part of 600 clients who are important to them. And so you have that clout. And more importantly than that, even, is we have an ongoing relationship with the property managers. We're in contact with them on a daily basis. I mentioned that we track everything. Well, they're part of our tracking system. They provide us with information on a regular basis. And so you're being handed off to like part of the family, part of the DFY team. And so, once you close on that property, a property management company then takes over management of your property, and you'll pay a monthly management fee and to them, not to us. And they will manage your property. You'll have access to an online portal where you can, communicate with the property manager. You can, they'll ACH your monthly rent to you. It'll just show up in your account. If there are any issues, they'll contact you, and they keep an ongoing tally of everything that's going on with your property in that online portal.
I love it. Yeah. If you've ever done real estate on your own and you have to find those good plumbers, a good HVAC guys, a good management company, all that stuff, you don't have to do that with Done For You Real Estate. It's done. And I've even done it myself and found like guys I thought would do really well. When I've worked with a good management company like DFY, they find things way less expensive than I could ever find them. They find, it just amazes me every time.
Yeah, 98% of our clients have never physically seen their properties.
Wow.
They've never been to their property, never seen them other than in photos.
Yeah.
And that's where it's key that you have a solid relationship in a property manager, because that will make or break your property, is having that good property management.
Yeah, if you have a good property manager, hold on to them. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a unique situation. I have a unique situation: 4 rental units, 1 long-term, 3 short-term. I have a reverse mortgage, but we're sitting on a lot of equity. I'm actually scheduled to speak with James tomorrow. Does the DFY team make sense for me?
Absolutely. You'll love talking to James. James is the best. He'll chat with you and answer your questions, and walk you through next steps.
Oh, great! Now they all want James now. All right, Jan, do you provide support for building on vacant land or homes already purchased in Hawaii?
We are not set up in Hawaii, but we have dozens and dozens and dozens of clients in Hawaii who are buying on the mainland, but we're not set up to be purchasing in Hawaii. Sorry.
Okay. All right. And Nora, we got a few questions on this. So what's in it for DFY other than the transaction commission? So what are the other fees associated with that?
Well, so we are vertically integrated. So when we get your financing, we'll earn just an industry standard, commission that you would have paid anyways for a mortgage, and same thing on insuring the property. And so other than the team's fee that we charge, which is kind of like a buyer paid commission, that's our motivation, right? Is from a financial standpoint. And like you, we are real estate investors. And so as a company, we also are building a portfolio. And so we take a certain percentage of our profits and we reinvest in real estate ourselves. And so we're building our own base of real estate. And then, from a philosophical standpoint, I tell you what, it's really fun to be doing a business that is as beneficial to your clients as it is. Like, we literally are changing people's lives, because we're not already working with the ultra wealthy. Okay, we're working with regular, ordinary Americans. And when we see them succeed and literally change their financial lives, it's very rewarding. In fact, every Tuesday we have an all hands meeting with my staff. And one of the things that we do is we share clients' stories and what's happening. And the kind of our company atmosphere here, our company core values and so on, revolves around the client experience and in helping clients. And so it's very rewarding. Like, I literally get to come play with my best friends every day, because I love real estate, I love business, and I love our clients. And it's just fun to see people succeed and do well, and see them come back again and again and again. And so that's one of the biggest rewards. Is last year 63% of our business was repeat customers. And that in and of itself is rewarding, where we have this company, it works in perpetuity because our clients come back again and again and again. And it's fun. It's I don't know how else to describe it.
Well, if they're coming back, that just speaks volumes for what you guys do. They're happy with the product, they're happy with the service, happy with the investment, and you literally are changing people's futures. It's a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Okay, so when you buy the real estate, is it wholesale or full price?
Yeah, so here's part of the new perspective. When you're talking to a typical real estate investor, they're like, I'm looking for a good deal. I'm looking for the needle in the haystack. Well, what we're looking for is what we call a purchase-worthy property. And a purchase-worthy property is a property that's going to cash flow positive. It's in the right neighborhood. It's going to attract the right tenants. And in 5 to 7 years, it's going to give you an 18, I'll be conservative, a 15+% annual return on your investment. Oftentimes it's above 20%. Most times it's above 20%. So that's a purchase worthy property. You don't have to find the needle in the haystack. You get to find a property that's going to take you very little time to manage, and it's going to give you the returns that I'm talking about over that 5 to 7 year period of time. And it's going to change, it's going to make a difference in your life. Like, that's the type of property we're looking for. We're not looking for we scored, we got this thing, $50,000 below, market value. It's like, that's not what we're looking for.
That's really cool. I love that. Okay. And is the $49.95 fee per transaction?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Do you assist with property management for investors that live in California and buying homes in Florida?
We sure do, every day.
That's awesome. Okay. Dick, how do you handle maintenance and the cost of it?
Maintenance is handled by the property manager, and whatever the cost is, that gets handed over to you. So if you have a leaky faucet, they're going to send somebody out, they're going to repair it, and you're going to pay the bill.
Very cool. Okay. All right. Okay. So vertically integrated, we kind of talked about these key 1031 exchange fees. Does DFY also provide qualified facilitator, escrow, things like that?
Correct. So we don't own the 1031 exchange companies. We have partners who are professionals, and that's all they do all day, every day. And so they have the staff, they have the legal expertise, and they'll provide the counsel, and they'll provide the escrow services and everything that you need to facilitate your 1031 exchange.
Beautiful. Okay. What's a typical DFY vacancy rate?
So if you were to talk to any of our property managers, across the spectrum of the 3,500 properties that we have under management, there's two numbers that we look at on a monthly basis. There's those who are paying late, and that's typically about 10%. But then those who eventually do pay, those who are struggling, like, legitimately, and they fall behind a little bit, it's closer to about 3.5%.
It's pretty good. Okay. All right. Do you help out with the marketing, screening, and managing of tenants?
The property management companies are experts at that.
Beautiful. Yes. Love that. You don't want to do that. That's not fun. Been there. Dick, how can I best compare your cost of maintenance versus what it would cost the average repair cost in the area? Good question.
So if you wanted to keep them honest, so to speak. So here's my take is, if you're a micromanager, you're going to have a little bit of trouble with this, type of real estate investing. We do have some clients who they've been their own property managers for years, and then they have it hired out because, they're worn out. They're done with it, right? So they want to do this, and then they get a bill to change the locks for $150 or something, okay, on the property, and they're like, I could have done that myself for $25, and it's like, well, but you're not doing it, and if you want to come out and do it for $25, that would be awesome, but the reality is you do pay market rates for services. Everybody out there is running a business, and they're for-profit companies. But what I can tell you is that you will get a fair price on everything that you get done. You're not getting like discounts on everything. This isn't a discount program. This is an investment program that will give you an amazing return on your investment. And if you can figure out how to let go of trying to nickel and dime, every little detail, your life will be so much better. It's part of the new perspective, right? Yeah. Looking at this as, I'm not trying to minimize every single expense. I'm trying to maximize the opportunity and my quality of life. right?
Amen.
When you can let go and you're not driving by that property every day and you're not worried about it and you're not thinking about it every day. Like we literally have clients who have forgotten that they have these properties and they haven't even looked at their bank accounts in like months, if not years. I remember one client, he's like, I totally forgot about it. He's like, my property manager finally, contacted me about something. And he's like, I completely forgot about it. Now that's not typical, right? But that's how hands off it can be.
Beautiful. Yeah, you don't want to go and fix the locks of or fix the toilets and the plumbing. Keep that out of your mind completely. I'm happy to pay those rates to get it done. And I found most management companies I've worked with have saved me a lot more money than when I was doing it myself.
Yeah,
sure.
and that's the beauty of working with a company who has strong relationships with all of their team members, is that trust can be leveraged. And so you can feel confident in knowing that even if you felt like maybe you got overpaid because you could do it cheaper, or your buddy who owns a similar type plumbing company could have done it, for $25 cheaper. It's like, it's not even worth the brain power to think about that.
Yeah, I've learned to let that go for sure. It is not worth the brain damage for sure. Yeah, I agree. Lily Beth, what's the turnaround when we are ready to purchase and actually close on a property? Is it a month? Can we actually see the house before we put in the offer?
You will see the house electronically before you put in the offer. Every property, before you make an offer, we vet the property. Done For You Real Estate does. Our agents in the markets, they find these properties. They send us the numbers. We plug the information into our pro forma. We vet the property, and we'll provide you with the pro forma before you'll ever make an offer. So you'll see photos, you'll see all the numbers, the projections, and then you'll make an offer.
And what's the turnaround before you close generally?
So from the time that you put a property under contract to the time that you close is on average 30 days. Now, having said that, if you're buying a brand new home, like brand new construction, if you put the home under construction when the foundation is poured, it could be 3, 4, 5 months.
Wow, crazy. I love that. Okay. Can you share with us those statistics you have gathered on the average management costs you've experienced in the past? Like, so a few questions asked about management fees. So what's the average?
Yeah, so management fees range between 8 and 10%.
And that's typical, guys. So if you've not ever had any management company, so think about your rent, 8 to 10% of your rent, that comes in, 8 to 10% of what they collect. And that's average.
Yep.
It's great. Okay. All right. And you guys can help with 1031 exchange. You guys have companies that will do that.
Yep.
Okay, Steph, definitely need a life-changing real estate experience with a professional. I want to succeed, but I don't have the confidence to jump in. You're here, Steph. These are the guys.
I promise you that we will help instill confidence. Many of our clients would not be real estate investors today if they weren't working with us. Like, they literally wouldn't have taken that next step. And we just help provide that confidence in knowing what the next step is, and in you feeling confident that what you are doing has been done literally thousands of times before. And you can feel confident that, your scenario will be similar to the experiences of prior clients, and just being able to tap into and rely on experts and being able to access them on demand before purchase, during purchase, and after purchase. For as long as you own that home, you will never pay us another dime other than that one-time Teams fee of $49.95, and you will have access to your account executive for as long as you own that property. And in fact, proactively on an annual basis, we are going to do a property and market review for you. So we will prepare, actual numbers on the current value of your property, and we're analyzing your property. So we keep all the data, right? So we're going to remind you, this is what you paid for it. This is what its value is today. If you refinance it, this is how much cash you could pull out. If you sell it, this is how much cash you would get. Here's what your cash flow was. This is what your expenses were. Here's how your property is performing today. Oh, and by the way, this is what the market is doing. We provide you with a whole market analysis of how the market is doing. And oh, and in addition to that, we're going to spend an hour with you on the phone or on a Zoom call reviewing all of your options with that property. You know, what makes sense? What are next steps in your investing plan to build a portfolio of properties? And we don't charge you for any of that outside of the one-time Teams fee that you paid for when you closed. That Teams fee actually shows up on your settlement statement.
Cool. And Steph, I can't tell you how much, you know, you want confidence to invest in real estate, to have someone literally who's doing it, thousands of them, has done thousands of them, you know, millions of dollars in transactions, to just stand by and hold your hand. You can call if you have questions, is huge. I've done my own real estate. Well, when do I sell? Is it good time to sell? What do I raise a rent to? And what do I do as far as maintenance costs? It's a lot of unknown questions. Unless you've done it for years, you don't know. These guys know it. It takes all the guesswork out of it. It's beautiful.
Yep.
All right. So we're kind of wrapping up there. It looks like, guys, great questions tonight. People are asking, how do we get started? The best way to get started is clicking on that link, right, Steve?
That's right. Click the link, go through the 5 or 6 question quiz and set an appointment with us.
Okay. And last question here, Nora, do we have to take the loan from you? And if so, how competitive are the rates?
You do not have to take the loan from us, but I'll tell you right now that your experience will not be the same. The beauty of having in-house lending is that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing. And that's all we do, are investment loans. And I would invite you to shop us. So we will be at or below any other, lender out there. We're extremely competitive. Like our goal is always to be super competitive. Occasionally there might be somebody who might be able to save you a few $100s, but that's typically not worth the grief that I promise you will have. Unfortunately, just because investment lending out of state can get a little bit squirrely sometimes. Squirrely from the sense of, again, the real estate agent who's out in the market, working with a lender who doesn't know that market and doesn't, really know what's going on. It can be done. Some of our clients still do it, and typically it's a little bit more painful for them. So we strongly encourage you to use our services and to shop us. But if you insist on using your own lender, that's totally fine.
That's cool. Okay. So, I mean, the thing is too, yeah, I guess the question in their mind is, okay, so really done for you real estate, really, are you guys adding some fractions of point in there somewhere and charging more interest rates? That's probably the question in their minds.
Sure.
No, you guys are competitive.
Yeah. And we invite people to shop us. So, and anybody who's saying to you, I'm getting it like this no cost loan. I promise you, nobody is working for free. And in lending, there's lots of ways to kind of hide how you're making your money, like on the back end and even on the front end and so on. So one way or another, they're making money, I promise you.
Yeah, totally. Shop around. That's nice. They can shop around and you don't have to use you guys if they don't want to, but yeah, keep it pain free. If rich, competitive, do it. Okay. And what's the average rate right now and how long are the terms of loans right now on average for your clients?
Yeah. So typically 20 to 25% down. If you go 25% down, you're going to get 1/2 to 3/4 of a point better interest rate. And so we encourage that. Interest rates right now, I could look up the email. We are looking at them every single week and adjusting our pro formas because they're changing so frequently. But I think it was like 5.165 on a 25% down, conventional 30-year fixed loan. 20% down, I think was 5.5 or 5.75. I think it was 5.75 actually on 20% down, but that's a 30-year fixed. And was there anything else to that question?
No, what's the average term, like 30 years usually?
Yeah. They're always, we don't recommend adjustable rate mortgages. It's a lot safer. It's more conservative to have a 30-year loan that's fixed that you can count on. and rates, people are like, 5.5%. That's so high. It's like historically, like that is low. That's still historically low. And so that's still a phenomenal interest rate. And if you can fix that for 30 years, you just won.
So, and people, you have to remember, you're comparing potentially like a home loan that you're doing on your home, right? So owner occupied versus an investment property rate, correct?
Yeah, owner occupied. I mean, you can still be in the fours, the high fours.
Yeah, so that's the difference. If you're thinking owner occupied, you see the signs on the freeway showing those rates. You got to think about investment properties rates will be higher.
That's right.
Okay. Well, no more questions. That's good, Steve. That means you answered them all.
Fantastic. This has been great. I've had a lot of fun. I hope a lot of you will come and chat. If you want to email me directly, if you just have any further questions, my email is steve@dfy-realestate.com. I'd be happy to answer any further questions. We're not this huge company, so we're kind of like a family-owned business. So yes, you can contact the CEO, which is my role, and I will absolutely respond every time. So would be happy to have an email conversation with any of you at any time.
Steve's passionate about what he does. I've talked to Steve a lot. He digs in deep. He knows the numbers, knows the details, and knows what's going on, and is clearly passionate about helping you guys succeed, which I love that, because that's what we want to do. We want to help you guys succeed, and investing is a part of it. This is all part of our game plan too. So I invest in real estate. This is my game plan too. Steve, thank you so much. Great questions. I put in the chat box again. Click that link to sign up and fill out the questionnaire. Done for you. We'll take care of you. I appreciate your time tonight, Steve.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Kendall.
Thank you. All right, guys. Everybody else will stay tuned for our webinar coming up here probably in 2 weeks. And please sign up for Done For You Real Estate. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys in a few weeks.
Thanks. Take care.